I think we'll start. There are some things yet to come, but I think they can join as they come. We don't need to worry about that too much. Let me first introduce the agenda for today. I think you've all seen what the schedule looks like. But the reason really why we're meeting and the reason we put it together is all of us have been doing something related to dogs. A lot of us have been doing a lot maybe. The degrees vary. But I think the important thing is that we are all interested and we are all wanting to participate. The whole idea here is how do you participate more, figure out what is that, what are the tools available to us to act more effectively. What are the legal tools available to us? Some of the discussion that I was just having on the side. What is available to us? What is, for example, there is something like an SPCA Act, which we don't have in Bangalore, there's no SPCA. So what is available to us, which allows us to act more effectively for the animals? Of course, stray dogs are animals, but animals in general. So that's really the agenda. So there are what are the roles and responsibilities of different stakeholders in this whole thing? What is that we are supposed to do as individual citizens? And what are our rights? Can you make something legal? Can you take action? Can you confiscate an animal, help confiscate an animal? What do you do? How do you do a rescue? Where do you take that animal, etc.? What are the other things that are available? Other things as in the other people in the ecosystem, which are AWs, what are their rights and responsibilities? What is the mandate that they carry? What is the mandate that the municipal corporations carry? What is the responsibility that the municipal corporation has? The backdrop for this whole thing therefore is that when I, for instance, started, and my journey in this thing is not very long. I've been around animal welfare or dog or whatever this business is called, maybe just short of 10 months, maybe a little more. And it really started last year when there was this whole idea of a dog cull again. When there was a killing of a child, and I was actually not in Bangalore at that time, I was in Delhi. I didn't know anybody in this room at that time. So it took me a few days or weeks to kind of start. I didn't even know what an ABC was. Okay. So how do you kickstart that process so people who want to participate can participate in a more meaningful way faster? All of us have the same common goal, and I'm not saying that everyone is going to litigate or everyone is going to do rescue, but what is this set of tools available to us? Okay, so to empower people like us ourselves is the real agenda. The second thing that we want to set the tone for is, I've heard a lot of times people say, I'm an activist. You know, people introduce themselves like animal activists. And this question has been put to me many times as well. So you are an animal activist, and I'm like, really? Because I've never seen myself as one. I'm just doing what I think needs to be done. But the point about activism of any kind is, to me, twofold. One is, first you need to act. And as I was sharing with Meera and Purnima, a lot of the dog rescue today is actually happening on Facebook or email. So there's a dog upset somewhere, a dog's been hurt, he's been run over, dog's got a problem. All this rescue is happening virtually. Actually, there's very little of it, or relatively little of it. How do you change that? When we say that we are activists, I think it is on all of us to say that we are first going to act. I'm going to go there. And we are all busy. I know that. I'm as busy as anybody else, and I'm not saying I'm doing more, but we are all busy, and we all do something for a living. It's hardly anybody's profession to be here. But it is on us. I had to learn this over a period of time. I had to learn what does AWS do, what is the law, what is not the law, what can you act, what you can. I had to learn all that. So can we short circuit? The website, the publication we do is also the same, which is, can you give information which is as readily available to somebody? So if you were to search on a Google or something which says, this act or this, this law case or this particular situation, hopefully you'll get those answers relatively quickly because that information was not available. So this whole idea is to set up learn from, mentioned about the ecosystem. And today in the day we'll see from what Naina speaks about and what Anjali speaks about, I did not make these questions, I will do so in a minute, is in a little more detail about what are some of those cases, how has the law or the responsibilities of those institutions, individuals, how have they panned out? So a lot of the experiences that we share today, actually pretty much everything that we are going through or the animal is going through on the street is something that has happened before. There are very few which are unique and new experiences. Because dogs have been around for many, many thousands of years and we've been around monkeys' years as well. So there is nothing that is, so new that has never been seen before. So there is a precedence for most of the things that are happening. Somewhere, some places, law, action, police is not adequate. But some places it is. And this experience of, this collective experience or this collective wisdom, how do you build that and make more of it available? Every time I've been asked this, so there is a message on the VoSD Facebook page, there is a message button. I get a lot of that messaging every day, which says, in my locality there is a situation, or my resident and welfare association there is a situation. So I kind of try to point them to the right place and say this information is available, this was the court case, look at that. So far, other than one or two issues, there was a case recently where there was a lady who was feeding pigeons and facing a problem feeding pigeons. People face problems feeding dogs. Resident welfare associations don't want dogs. The municipal corporation decides to act in a certain way. Every time this information is put in front of people who are really concerned, who want to act, they can make use of it. So how do you create a more collective, inclusive, information base? And that was the real agenda. I'll come to what VoSD does in a bit, but and it's not here to sell voice of stray dogs. The whole agenda with which I had approached this problem was really information. We have got into other things, but that is a byproduct of that. I had never thought that I would do rescue. As a matter of fact, the first few times I had to tell people, listen, I don't do rescue, I can't do that. But then I realized every time I say that dog actually dies. So now my car is the rescue van. Okay? And every time you say that you cannot house a dog, it goes back on the street. So you had to learn to do some kind of adoptions or find this, you had to complete the chain. So these were not choices that we had made. But had the system been more performing, no system is perfect, but the system had it been performing better than what it does, it could have been different. Okay? So where the constitutionally, law-wise, where the system is envisaged is I think here. Where it is practicing right now is here. Where we want to go is even higher. But there is still a measure of what we can achieve before we say, okay, all laws are inadequate, we can't do this, we can't do that, we need to go even higher. Okay? So, and that step, that measure is only ours. It cannot be given to anybody else. So when I said Facebook, while it is a great tool, or email, while they are a great tool, they are not rescue, they are not action. We just keep talking. Okay? And I will take this opportunity to introduce Naina. Naina Atle is from Bombay, she comes from Bombay. She is on the managing committee of IDA. She is also on the committee or board or whatever you like to call it for the Voice of Stray Dogs. But she brings a tremendous amount of experience from having started this program, just like Purnima Harish did back in maybe 2000, ABC. Right? So she's been instrumental in starting this thing in Navi Mumbai. Anjali is a High Court lawyer, member of AWPI, and whatever many hats that she wears, but also runs or helps run SPCA in Noida. So there's a lot of everyday, rescue and management effort that goes into running something like that. There's a lot of experience that everyone brings, and the question is, how do we pull it together? So this by no means, and while there's nothing we can do, I mean, we can't avoid talking about the Voice of Stray Dogs, but the idea here was information. It's not a political group. It's not a group which. So what I'm saying is that we need to find ways, and it's possible that that way is not this website. It's possible. It's possible that that way is not that Facebook page, which becomes increasingly more popular and more people are, on that page and on that website. But there has to be a way where we can learn from each other and say, okay, this was your experience and how am I going to use it to handle the situation I have? There's no point trying to reinvent the wheel. And my journey has shown me, in the context of the dogs, that a lot of the experiences that I was going through in the situations I was trying to solve had been seen by somebody else. So I just tried to digitize and put it together so somebody else can benefit from it. Not everyone appreciates maybe the way that it is done, but the question is that it is information and needs to be available. Okay? And before I ask the real speakers for the day and leave you, I just wanted to just set the context of what the Voice of Stray Dogs does and is. Like I said, about 9-10 months back, we started doing really basically this website and this Facebook page, which was to give more information. And to give more information, we had to actually digitize and capture a lot of information. So that's how I started building some of the links, because I started looking for information that was present outside and so on. Then we started doing education. We said, okay, why don't we go to schools? Why don't we go to colleges? Why don't we go to some resident welfare associations? We started doing that. Then, and we were refusing dog rescue work, so we started doing some dog rescue, first individually, but the idea is to move forward to do it more in a more structured way. First trying to figure out how to do a beta or a pilot in a more limited way. So the context of the Voice of Stray Dogs and what I was talking about, like I said, it's not that this is a better or worse entity, but the idea that what I'm attempting to do is disassociate animal welfare from the government money. The government needs to govern. When it runs an airline, it goes south. When it runs hotels, they go south. They can't give health care for crying out loud. Okay? 32 kids die in one little hospital in Calcutta, government hospital. Bam. 25 kids die in 1 month back, right? 25 kids, 32 kids died in Srinagar in the last month. Government hospital. I believe government's got no job running these places. They need to govern. But now you're asking the government to give money or somehow carry the mandate of doing animal welfare. To my mind, at least in a government hospital, however, and there is nothing, the only thing that in my mind compares with an animal, with a dog, is a really poor person, because he doesn't know how to speak out and get what his right is. They have no options in life. Okay? But a person who's otherwise able to speak for himself or herself, if they are put in that situation by the central state, whatever the structure of governance is, how do you put a dog in that structure? What options does the dog have? How the hell is he going to fight out of that system? And to my mind, that's a larger part of the dog cruelty or whatever cruelty. To my mind, the cruelty is worse when it's institutionalized. I may be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. But for a country which has whatever number of 400 million dogs and any amount of agency, any amount of municipal corporations trying to do something and not doing it all right, at least there is a corrective action available when the subject is a person, because the person can engage with you and say, this service is not good enough, or I was not supposed to get this ID. How do you solve the problem when this thing is a dog? So what I'm trying to build is a system which is disassociated from the government money. So essentially, BBMP can never have a noose around the neck saying that you need to pick up this dog because this dog is, some cooperator has reported this dog has to be picked up. I don't take your money, you can't tell me that. Okay? And ultimately, just like people keep saying, privatize healthcare. Yeah? American elections are won and lost on that basis. Privatize or not privatize. Okay? How do you build a system of doing animal welfare which is on private money? So far it's being funded completely privately. All Voice of Stray Dogs funding comes from some individual pocket. However, going forward, if we need to scale, we have to change some of those things. Okay? So there has to be external money, by which I mean we need to earn it. So we will have a series of services, okay? For example, veterinary services and others, which Voice of Stray Dogs is a non-profit, so we can't take money out of this agency. Which is to create things which can fund this organization, so it allows us to do what we want to do, but not be dependent on this mandate that somebody in the government, local or central government carries. There has to be a way to dissociate. And the best thing for the Voice of Stray Dogs in the years coming forward would be if there are 100 of them. If this model works and somebody says, hey, listen, this is a great model, I want to do animal welfare, I can save 100,000 dogs a year. And if they can start an enterprise like this by themselves, in 4 of them in Bangalore and 5 of them in Delhi and whatever else, if this model works, fantastic. That's what we would like to do. How do you create a system that feeds on itself, that is self-contained in a certain way, and it is outside of the pulls or pressures that come from governance, as governance is. Nothing comes for free. And it's for that reason that we've been very, very iffy about any amount of money that comes into Voice of Stray Dogs, because nothing comes free. Okay, so you need to participate in your own way more. Having learned from this, I hope that all of us find ourselves within ourselves to do a little bit more, okay, or have this perspective, say that okay, with this perspective we are going to act. And I hope that if you want to participate with the Voice of Stray Dogs to help further this cause or to help enlarge this envelope of whatever we are creating. So now there are multiple things, including, like I said, adoptions, rescue, vet care, trauma, inflammation, etc., etc. So we didn't have a choice, like I said, we were forced to. But if you want to participate with Voice of Stray Dogs, we'd be very, very happy. If you want to do that in some other way, in your own form and size, I'd be happy as well. But let's all collectively go and do something and learn from the people who came before us, okay?